There's a Starbucks on 125th and Malcolm X. And the price of a matcha is $6.80. That's how much I just paid for this matcha. Right? And so when we talk about gentrification, you put a Starbucks in the middle of Harlem on 125th, up the street from the Apollo, things start to change, right? Things start to change. The property value goes up. There's also a Whole Foods back there. And if y'all don't know, I did a video on that as well. And it's more stuff to come. But there's a Whole Foods on 125th and Malcolm X. Because I refuse to call it Lenox, named after a white philosopher from the 1800s. I will call it Malcolm X. Thank you. And so when you see that and the property value goes up and black folks that lived here for years don't own the brownstones, or their parents owned it and they sold, right? So the same thing happened in Inglewood when they built the stadium. So here, they're renovating the Apollo, right? They're renovating the Apollo. And so that's one thing. And so these renovations means that they're expecting more tourists. Prices get higher. Because it's not just for the people that live here, it's for the people that are coming here. And then the people that live in New York, it becomes for the people that can afford it, right? And so people get pushed out. Gentrification. That's why I paid $6.80 for a matcha, when I could get it $5 3 blocks away, right? But that's closer to the projects. We'll come back to that. Moving to New York by way of South Africa. Prior to that, I was based in Los Angeles. But I am originally from Baltimore. I seen the difference. I've seen neighborhoods that are predominantly black end up changing. Right? And so, you know, they say they're making the neighborhood better. A lot of black neighborhoods have food deserts. Where I lived in LA, in Inglewood, and in Baltimore, you couldn't find a Whole Foods. You couldn't find Trader Joe's. You had to go to the county for that. Right now, on 125th in Harlem, Malcolm X, you see a Trader Joe's and a Whole Foods. Both. And a Starbucks. All within a block of each other. Literally. If I cross the street and walk 1 block, I will be at Trader Joe's. If I cross the street and make a right from Starbucks, the very next corner is Whole Foods. And so these are indications that the neighborhood is changing, that the people that can afford to live here is changing, and people get pushed out. I made a video about the Whole Foods, like I'm making one about Starbucks, that you probably saw, which brought you to this video. My YouTube shorts and TikTok. And from that video, people were calling me a gentrifier. Now, how the hell you gonna look like me? How are we the same color and I'm the gentrifier? I didn't know that was possible. I really didn't know that was a thing. I thought you had to look, I thought you had to be melanin deficient. But even people that they perceive to have more money, they can afford the rent price here. Because I'm in a nice part in Harlem. They look at you as a gentrifier too. So now we're enemies. What else did they call me? A gentrifier, transplant. That's cool. I'm cool with transplant because I'm a transplant. I'm not from here. It is what it is. But I respect New York. I respect the people here. And I'm not here to cause no problems. If my black ass could be in Africa right now, I still would be. So I'm just passing through. I'm saying all that to say we need to pay attention to how the world is changing. Specifically in our neighborhoods. Because it's an indicator of everything else that's going on. $6.80, that's a loaf of bread and a thing of peanut butter. That could be your lunch for a week. You know what I mean? If this was Everybody Hates Chris and I was the dad, I'd be like, $7? That's a bag of rice and 2 cans of beans. Like that. That's how you gotta look at stuff. That's how you gotta look at stuff. Somebody asked me how much my rent was. And I gave them a number. It's not even the right number. But I wanted to see what their intentions were. And based off that, they looked at me differently. I was like, man, I thought you were paying this. People will judge you off of how much rent you pay, where you live. In LA, they ask you where you live. They don't ask you how much you make. They ask you where do you live. And based off of where you live, they judge you on how much you can make because they think the rent that you pay is equivalent to how much you can afford. Right? Like if it's higher rent, then you make a lot of money. Some people are living in those places, living check to check. You don't know. And smart people that live within their means will make a lot of money and pay cheaper rent so that half their income doesn't go to goddamn rent. We all know you have to make 4 times here. In New York, it's 4 times what your rent is. So you thinking 2K is low, you're crazy. But that's for the smart ones. I'll let you analyze that. We're living in a time where people think it's about race. A lot of the discrimination that's going on. Excuse me, can I get through? And it's not. Hold up, something's going on. This is New York, y'all. It's like a movie. There's always something going on. Back to the regularly scheduled programming. All right, so back to regularly scheduling programming. New York is a movie, y'all. It's always something going on. It's always something going on. And so, like I said, it's a deeper thing going on. Everybody is screaming racism when really it's classism. What we're dealing right now is classism. It's how much you can pay, how much you can afford, what your status is, and not just degrees, because we see people with degrees struggling to find a job. Entrepreneurs are winning, creators are winning. We're in a new economy, the creator economy. People that started investing in 2020, they're winning if they didn't sell or if they're a trader. And so I'm saying all that to say is when you look at the price of Starbucks matcha being $6.80, and that is on the corner of 125th and Malcolm X, you start to look at life a little differently. Hold up. My arm is tired, yo. My arm is tired. I ain't gonna hold you. And so we're dealing with a class issue because the black people that are going through stuff, they are of a certain class. It's the haves and have-nots. Unfortunately, Tyler Perry was right. Heavy on unfortunately. You see that when you come to a city where everybody's hustling to survive, when everybody's struggling. Not everybody, but a lot of people are hustling. And then you have people that have it and they're not. You know, whether they come from money, whether they do really well for themselves, high earners. But that determines on how you get treated in life. That determines on how you're going to be able to navigate this world, this society that we're living in, this new wave, right? Where people are living more public lives, people want to know your business. You know what I mean? The creator economy, putting yourself out there. I just hope you're on the right side of history. For me, one of my solutions is to move somewhere else where my money works better for me. I do well here. Don't get it twisted. But if I move somewhere else where my money does better, why not? Money has different value different places. Your value is different places. Let me give you an example. See, I gotta sit this down. I gotta sit this down just to give you an example. For example, this is 200 rands. Shit. I dropped it. This is 200 rands. 200 rands. In South Africa, that's could get you a whole meal, like out someplace nice. In America, that's $10. That could get you some Chipotle. Or a cup of matcha that costs $6.80. Right? And so your value is different depending on where you at, and your money's value is different. And so one of my things that I push is buying property outside of the country, living outside of the country, and where I chose is Africa. And you can choose whatever works for you. I have a cousin that goes to Colombia, and it's all kinds of places that you could go. Well, I'm saying that in this time where class is becoming an issue, more than anything, you need to look at the world from a global perspective, more so than just you live in America and you travel sometimes and you're going to save and retire at 65. People are dying young. The black man's life expectancy is 67, between 67 and 72. So you're going to retire at 65? You're going to work your whole life and die? That's your plan? Good luck. So next time, peace from Khalees.